Masai Ujiri is about to finesse the Brooklyn Nets, as reports have come out that Nic Claxton could be available for a trade ahead of this year's trade deadline, and the Toronto Raptors have long been connected, have long been attached to trying to acquire Nic Claxton, and it just feels like that things are sort of aligning for the Toronto Raptors to swoop in and potentially make a deal with the Brooklyn Nets. But I'm not just calling for a deal, I'm calling for a finesse, because everyone on all these different fan bases, heck, even some Toronto Raptors fans have been yelling at us, fans of this Raptors squad. And yes, the Raptors may have taken too long on a potential OG Pascal Siakam trade, but we were hearing things like the Toronto Raptors are going to get nothing back for OG Anunoby, for Pascal Siakam, for one key reason. Both are unrestricted free agents come this summer. They could leave for nothing. So the Raptors have no leverage. They have no ability to negotiate. But Masai Ujiri, for whatever you think about his long-term decision-making, over the past couple years, buying into a group that some people didn't believe in, I did believe they could be at least better than what was ended up getting turned out on the basketball court. But he is a master negotiator when he's talking trades. And he was able to talk his way into two especially the New York Knicks trade. The Pacers got a lot of first-round picks, but got some serious assets back for two guys on expiring contracts. And now he's got the high ground. He's coming in to the Brooklyn Nets like a vulture and saying, hey, I was the weakling before in terms of contract, in terms of, leverage with guys being available. But Nic Claxton is a guy that's an unrestricted free agent this summer as well. So basically, everything that was said about Pascal Siakam, that was said about OG Anunoby, is the case for the Brooklyn Nets here now at this point. So let's dive into this report. Let's dive into everything that's going on. Again, if you're part of the 58% that aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button so we can keep you up to date with everything regarding this team. But basically, Mark Stein came out with a report that said that he's heard that that more than once this week, not to discount the idea that Brooklyn's big man Nic Claxton could be more available over the next 7 days than previously advertised. There are mixed signals in circulation about the Nets' plans with Claxton, as he's an unrestricted free agent this summer. So there's been a lot of news coming out regarding the Brooklyn Nets over the past couple of weeks or so. Seemingly their vets are guys that sort of have a bit of value here now at this point. Seem like they could be shopped, particularly the Dorian Finney-Smiths of the world, particularly the Royce O'Neals. Apparently they want to get rid of at least one of those players. News came out that Spencer Dinwiddie might be on a silent strike or something because, he's playing so bad. There's speculation that he's actively tanking his value or something being with the Brooklyn Nets. Apparently, the Houston Rockets have offered a significant deal in order to attain Mikal Bridges that would send back basically all those Brooklyn Nets picks they traded away in that James Harden trade package. So, there's a lot of turmoil happening with the Brooklyn Nets right now. And Nic Claxton is a guy that's, not old by any means, but he's about to a point in his career where he probably wants to start winning a little bit. And he's a guy that's 24 years old, about to be 25, come this summer. So again, elite defensive center, elite sort of finisher around the basket. And the Toronto Raptors, yes, we're not that team that's super in contention. But if we add Nic Claxton to this young core, it's a bunch of guys that are his age that could really, maybe not necessarily win immediately, like right away as soon as he joins this squad, but could definitely grow together into something that's extremely special. Looking at his stats, right, Nic Claxton's a guy this season averaging 12 points per game, 2 blocks, averaged 2.5 blocks last season. The free throw shooting is a bit of a concern, a significant concern for Nic Claxton, but, again, he's not a shooter by any means, but he's a significant lob threat. He's a player that, again, looking at the intangibles, 6'11", extremely long arms, extremely athletic, blocks a lot of shots, is sort of that defensive rim protector, which could be huge to build around, like a guy like Scotty, a guy like RJ who attack the rim. Now, it's extremely rare. And a guy that just retired, that was a former Toronto Raptor, Marc Gasol, did it perfectly. That can be an anchor on defense and space the floor. Those are almost unicorns out there in the NBA, especially ones that can stay healthy, not to throw things at Porzingis and, Victor Wembanyama, but those types of players are very, very rare. But there's other ways you can sort of create spacing as sort of a defensive anchor. And Jakob Poeltl's a guy that's on this team that we trade a lot to give up. We gave up a lot for him last trade deadline in order to bring him in. But basically, Jakob Poeltl is that defensive presence. He's a solid big man underneath the paint. But offensively, the spacing does get a little bit cluttered with Jakob Poeltl on the court. He can get to the dunker, but passes kind of have to be threading the needle when you drive that lane in order to hit Jakob. Now, if you have an elite point guard, you can definitely hit him. It's better than running no center out there in terms of a target, but one way you can sort of create that gravity, create sort of openings for your players is being a lob threat, which just isn't the case for Jakob Poeltl. And this is where Nic Claxton, playing alongside of Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly, three guys that can drive the paint, can get those paint touches, draw the defensive end, and rather than having to make, some wild pass, obviously, which can happen. We've seen Scotty Barnes throw some gorgeous dimes to players like Thaddeus Young, especially in recent weeks with the more spaced court. But now you can just toss it up there. You can throw it up to anywhere around the basket, and Claxton's a guy that's just going to be able to throw it down ferociously out there on the court. So, I mean, he's young. Defensively, there's not even much to say. He's just an elite rim protector, solid. He's improving his positional defense and stuff, right? He would be an anchor for this Toronto Raptors team. Probably a guy that's, when he's in the prime of his career, could be a DPOY candidate, but a player that offensively can be a lob threat. Again, there's question marks about free throw shooting. The spacing's just not going to be there, but will command a lot of gravity. He's young and probably would fit this sort of time, would certainly fit this timeline perfectly in terms of what the Raptors have in developing players, having players around the age of 23, 25. Again, we did get those 3 first-round picks for Pascal Siakam, but in that OG trade, we traded for 2 players that are 23, 24, not entering the, starting that ascent, starting that sort of journey to the prime of their careers. And Nic Claxton would fit that perfectly. So, what would we have to give up to get him? Well, the Raptors tried to trade for him already a couple times. I mean, I remember a couple years ago when his stats, again, weren't that great, right? You could see the numbers, his rookie season, not too outstanding or anything along those lines. And we almost traded him for Chris Boucher, who's probably at the peak of his trade value back then. Obviously, it's going to be more than that here now at this point. But basically, the Raptors were close to trading him again, last season. So the Raptors have had their moments in trying to trade for Nic Claxton. This go around, again, he's an unrestricted free agent, so we don't know his value. We don't know what's out there on the sort of open market. But again, Claxton's a guy that making $8 million per year right now, so it's tough to sort of match salary. Bruce Brown couldn't be traded straight up in one of these types of packages. I don't know if they're trading Nic Claxton. Maybe they want Jakob Poeltl back because they currently don't have their draft picks unless they end up going through with that Mikal Bridges sort of deal. But I could see, maybe a Nic Claxton, maybe some of these guys, because again, the Nets are at an interesting spot. They're a squad that is bad right now. They're at the level of the Toronto Raptors in terms of losing games, in terms of all these types of things, but they don't have their draft picks. So there's a little incentive to properly tank, to sort of nuke their season and things like that. So bringing in a Jakob Poeltl again, losing Nic Claxton, the value trade-wise there, the Raptors probably have to add something on top of it. Maybe 3 team deals get involved. I don't know. I just want to see Masai Ujiri come in and finesse the Brooklyn Nets for Nic Claxton. The Warriors are a team that I've seen be linked, and probably a lot of the NBA would be interested in acquiring Claxton if he does go up there on the open market, but I don't know. He's a guy that feels like he should be a Toronto Raptor, given the amount of rumors, given all that stuff that has come out, and now it just seems like the time, given the direction this team is going. Again, would I give up maybe 1 or 2 of those, future first round picks we got from the Pacers? Maybe, and again, Masai's talked about flexibility. You'd be kind of buying into Nic Claxton, but you have that flexibility, so when moments like this come around, you can actually execute on them. And this would speed up the Raptors' rebuild. This would turn things around, hurt the tank this season for sure. I guess if Jakob Poeltl's back, then, the tank's going to be hurt regardless, but I don't know. I just want to see this happen. I saw that report, just jumped on here because I want to see Masai Ujiri finesse the Brooklyn Nets. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys are the best for making this far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. I'm signing out. Cheers.